In the grim darkness of the far future, there exists a realm beyond comprehension, a dimension of pure psychic energy where the laws of reality dissolve into madness. This is the warp, the Imperium, and within its roiling depths dwell beings of unimaginable power. They are the Chaos Gods, entities born from the darkest emotions of every sentient creature in the galaxy. They are hunger given form, rage given purpose, despair given consciousness. And they hunger for the souls of all mortal beings. To understand the Chaos Gods is to peer into the very essence of corruption itself. These are not distant, uncaring deities sitting upon golden thrones. They are active, malevolent forces that constantly reach into reality, their tendrils of influence wrapping around the hearts and minds of mortals. Every angry thought, every moment of despair, every sensation of pleasure pushed beyond natural limits feeds these entities. They grow stronger with each passing moment, sustained by the very emotions that make sentient life what it is. The warp was not always the nightmare realm it has become. In the ancient past, when the galaxy was young and psychic races were few, the Imperium flowed like a gentle ocean. Emotions existed there, certainly, but they had not yet coalesced into the monstrous intelligences we now call gods. The old ones, those ancient architects of the galaxy's psychic races, could navigate the warp freely, using it as a highway between the stars. But as civilizations rose and fell, as wars raged across 1,000,000 worlds, the warp began to change. The first stirrings of the Chaos Gods emerged during periods of terrible strife. Khorne, the blood god, was the first to fully awaken, his birth marked by the endless bloodshed of Terra's Middle Ages, the constant warfare, the crusades, the brutal conquest and counter-conquest fed something in the warp. Violence begat violence, and from this never-ending cycle of slaughter, a consciousness formed. Khorne opened his eyes in the realm of souls and found himself already ancient, already powerful, already hungry for more blood to flow across the battlefields of reality. Nurgle followed, emerging during the great plagues that swept across the medieval world. As populations succumbed to disease, as despair took hold of the survivors, as hope withered and died in the face of unstoppable pestilence, another god was born. But unlike Khorne, whose nature was straightforward and brutal, Nurgle represented something more insidious. He was the acceptance of death, the embrace of decay, the comfort found in giving up the fight against inevitable entropy. Then came Tzeentch, the changer of ways, born from ambition and hope twisted into obsession and madness. Every scholar seeking forbidden knowledge, every politician plotting their rise to power, every dreamer reaching for the impossible fed this god of change. Tzeentch is perhaps the most paradoxical of all the Chaos Gods, for he represents both hope and the corruption of that hope, both change for the better and mutation into monstrosity. And finally, in an event that would shake the galaxy to its foundations, Slaanesh was born. The youngest of the great Chaos Gods emerged not from the slow accumulation of emotions across millennia, but in a single catastrophic moment. The Eldari, in their pride and arrogance, had created a civilization of such excess and depravity that their collective psychic presence in the warp began to coalesce into something new. When Slaanesh finally tore itself free from the Imperium, the psychic scream of its birth ripped a hole in reality itself. The Eye of Terror erupted into existence, and an entire civilization was consumed in an instant. The Eldari, once the dominant power in the galaxy, were brought to their knees by the very god their excesses had created. These four great powers are not the only entities dwelling in the warp, but they are by far the most powerful. Each commands legions of demons, entities formed from fragments of their own consciousness given independent thought and purpose. Each has claimed vast territories within the realm of chaos, building fortresses and domains that reflect their nature, and each constantly schemes against the others in what is known as the Great Game, an eternal conflict for supremacy over both the material universe and the warp itself. But understanding the Chaos Gods requires more than simply knowing their origins. We must examine each in detail, understanding what they represent, who follows them, and why they pose such an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. We must look into the abyss that is chaos and understand what stares back. Only then can we truly comprehend the magnitude of the horror that is the ruinous powers. The Imperium teaches that the Emperor protects, that faith and devotion can shield one from chaos. But those who have truly studied the nature of the warp know a darker truth. The Chaos Gods are sustained by the very emotions that define sentient life. To truly defeat them would require the extinction of all feeling, all hope, all fear, all desire. It would require the death of consciousness itself. And so the war continues, an endless struggle where victory is impossible and defeat unthinkable. In the darkness between the stars, in the quiet moments before battle, in the desperate hours when faith falters and hope dies, the Chaos Gods are there. They whisper promises of power to the ambitious, offer respite from suffering to the desperate, grant strength to the weak and pleasure to those who have forgotten what it means to feel alive. And with each soul that accepts their gifts, they grow stronger. The galaxy burns, and from the flames, the ruinous powers laugh at the futility of mortal resistance. What follows is a comprehensive examination of each Chaos God, their nature, their followers, and their place in the endless war for the soul of the galaxy. Steel yourself, for this knowledge comes at a price. To know the enemy is to risk becoming like them, and the Chaos Gods are always listening, always watching, always waiting for a moment of weakness to exploit. Horn, the Blood God. There is a throne that sits atop a mountain of skulls in the realm of chaos. It is forged from brass and iron, worked with the bones of fallen warriors, and it is stained with the blood of countless billions. Upon this throne sits Horn, the Blood God, the Lord of Skulls, the oldest and mightiest of all the Chaos Gods. His domain is violence in all its forms, from the honorable duel between warriors to the senseless slaughter of innocents. He is rage incarnate, hatred given divine form, and the promise of power through martial might. Horn cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it flows. This simple truth defines everything about the Blood God and his followers. To serve Horn is to embrace violence as the ultimate expression of existence, to understand that the only true measure of worth is the ability to destroy one's enemies. Every battle, every murder, every drop of blood spilled in anger feeds Khorne's power. Friend or foe, it matters not to the Lord of Skulls. All the dead are equal in his eyes, all blood equally valuable in filling the rivers that flow through his domain. The appearance of Khorne is a nightmare made manifest. Those few who have glimpsed the Blood God and survived to speak of it describe a towering figure of impossible proportions, a being of muscle and brass armor whose very presence radiates an aura of barely contained fury. His face is that of a great hound, fanged and snarling, with eyes that burn with an eternal rage. Atop his head are great horns, and from his back sprout wings of leather and flame, though he rarely uses them, preferring to sit upon his throne and watch the endless wars being waged in his name. The sacred number of Khorne is 8, and this number appears throughout his domain and the organization of his demonic legions. 8 towers ring his brass citadel. 8 cohorts form a complete blood legion. 8 tasks must be completed by a demon slain in the material realm before Khorne will give them form once more. The significance of this number is ancient, older even than the Blood God himself, tied to some fundamental aspect of violence and bloodshed that predates conscious thought. Khorne's realm within the warp is a reflection of his nature. The brass citadel stands at the center of a landscape of eternal war, where rivers of boiling blood cut through plains of scorched earth and mountains of skulls rise toward a sky that burns with the light of a red sun. The very ground trembles with the impact of countless battles, and the air itself is thick with the cries of warriors locked in endless combat. Around the citadel are the great forges where demon weapons and armor are created, where the constant ringing of hammer on anvil creates a rhythm like a war drum beating out the march of armies. The followers of Khorne are as varied as violence itself, warriors drawn to the promise of martial excellence, gladiators seeking the ultimate test of their skills, barbarians who worship strength above all else, and madmen who have given themselves over entirely to the joy of slaughter. Among the Space Marines, entire legions have dedicated themselves to the Blood God. The World Eaters, once the legion of the Primarch Angron, are perhaps the most notorious. They have embraced Khorne so completely that they are barely recognizable as the warriors they once were, transformed into berserkers who live only for the next kill. The greatest champion of Khorne among mortals is Kharn the Betrayer, a warrior whose legend is written in the blood of friends and foes alike. Once a captain of the World Eaters, Kharn has become a living embodiment of Khorne's principle that all blood has value. He has killed more of his own allies than enemies, earning his epithet through countless acts of indiscriminate slaughter. Yet he continues to be blessed by Khorne, for the Blood God cares only that blood is spilled, not whose blood it is. But it is not only mortals who serve Khorne. The Blood God commands vast legions of daemons, entities formed from pure violence and rage. The most common are the Bloodletters, lesser demons that march in disciplined ranks before descending into a fury of slaughter once battle is joined. These crimson-skinned fiends wield blessed blades that can cut through ceramite armor as easily as flesh, and their presence on a battlefield drives mortal followers of Khorne into religious ecstasy that often results in permanent insanity. The Bloodthirsters are the greater demons of Khorne, towering figures of brass and muscle that combine the most terrifying aspects of man and beast. With wings of leather and flame, wielding axes that can cleave tanks in two, these are the generals of Khorne's armies and the enforcers of his will. Each Bloodthirster is a fragment of Khorne's own essence, containing a portion of his martial prowess and endless rage. To face one in battle is to confront violence in its purest, most concentrated form. The Fleshhounds are the hunting beasts of Khorne, demonic creatures that track their prey across time and space by following the psychic scent of fear and anger. They are tireless, relentless, and nearly impossible to escape once they have caught the trail of their quarry. Juggernauts, meanwhile, serve as demonic mounts for the most favored champions. These creatures are living engines of war, formed from brass and demonic flesh, whose hooves strike sparks that ignite the very air as they charge into battle. Khorne's relationships with the other Chaos gods are defined by hatred and contempt. He despises Tzeentch above all others, viewing the Changer of Ways as a coward who hides behind sorcery rather than facing enemies in honest combat. Magic itself is anathema to Khorne, representing everything he finds contemptible about those who refuse to settle matters through strength of arms. His followers are protected from psychic powers to a degree, their rage and their god's blessing forming a barrier against the manipulations of sorcerers. But Khorne's truest nemesis is Slaanesh, where the Blood God demands sacrifice and the acceptance that death comes to all. Slaanesh offers indulgence and the promise of eternal pleasure. Where Khorne prizes martial honor and the test of combat, Slaanesh embraces excess and the pursuit of sensation for its own sake. The two gods represent opposing philosophies of violence itself. Khorne kills to prove strength and honor the fallen. Slaanesh kills to experience the sensation of life draining away. This fundamental opposition has led to countless conflicts between their followers, both in the warp and in the material universe. Yet, there is a paradox at the heart of Khorne's nature. While he is the god of mindless slaughter and senseless violence, he is also the god of martial pride and honor. Many of his followers are not bloodthirsty madmen but dedicated warriors who see combat as the ultimate test of worth. They face their enemies with courage, accepting death if it comes with honor. Khorne values these warriors as much as he does the berserkers, who know only rage. In his eyes, both serve the same purpose: the spilling of blood and the taking of skulls. This duality makes Khorne perhaps the most accessible of the Chaos gods to those who do not consciously worship chaos. A soldier fighting for the Imperium, dedicating his kills to the Emperor, is still feeding Khorne's power with every life he takes in anger. A warrior culture that values martial prowess and the glory of combat unknowingly serves the blood god, even as they believe they fight against chaos. Violence is violence, and blood is blood, regardless of the cause for which it is shed. The battle cry of Khorne's followers has echoed across 1 million battlefields. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. It is a simple phrase, but it encompasses everything about the nature of Khorne's worship. There is no complex theology, no intricate rituals, no philosophical discussions about the nature of the divine. There is only the understanding that violence is the ultimate truth of existence, and that the strong deserve to rule over the weak. The mark of Khorne is a crude symbol, harsh lines forming an abstract representation of a skull. Those who bear this mark are changed by it, their bodies warping to better serve their god. They become stronger, faster, more resilient to pain, but they also become more prone to rage, more likely to solve problems through violence, less capable of the subtle emotions that make one truly human. Over time, the mark transforms its bearer entirely, until nothing remains but a weapon in the service of the blood god. In the current era of the galaxy, Khorne's power has never been greater. The Imperium wages endless war, against countless enemies. The forces of chaos clash with one another as much as they do with the servants of the Emperor. Orks, driven by their genetic need for violence, feed Khorne's power, even though they would never acknowledge him as a god. The Tyranids consume entire worlds in orgies of biological warfare. The Necrons prosecute their ancient vendetta against all living things. Everywhere there is war, everywhere there is bloodshed, and Khorne grows stronger with each passing moment. The tragedy of Khorne is that he can never truly be defeated without fundamentally changing the nature of the galaxy itself. As long as there is conflict, as long as sentient beings feel anger and rage, as long as violence exists as a solution to problems, the blood god will endure. The Imperium must fight to survive, but every battle it wins feeds the very god it seeks to resist. It is a paradox with no solution, a war that cannot be won but must be fought nonetheless. And so the brass throne grows higher, built upon the skulls of countless trillions. The rivers of blood that flow through Khorne's domain swell with each new conflict. The demon legions march forth from the warp, seeking new skulls to claim in their master's name. And in the hearts of mortals across the galaxy, the seed of violence waits to bloom, nurtured by anger and desperation, ready to transform the faithful into the damned. Khorne is eternal. Khorne is inevitable. As long as blood flows and skulls can be taken, the blood god will reign supreme among the powers of chaos. And in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Nurgle, the plague father. In the darkest corners of the warp, where reality itself seems to rot and decay, there exists a garden. It is a place of terrible beauty, where plants grow in impossible profusions, their fruits heavy and rotten, their flowers blooming in colors that hurt the eye to perceive. Rivers of bile and pus flow through this garden, nurturing growths both magnificent and horrifying. And tending to this garden with the care of a devoted groundskeeper is Nurgle, the plague god, Grandfather Nurgle, father of plagues, the lord of decay. To speak of Nurgle is to speak of paradox. He is the god of death and disease, yet his followers call him the most generous and loving of all the chaos gods. He is entropy incarnate, the force that breaks down all things into their base components, yet he also represents the cycle of rebirth that comes after decay. Where the other Chaos gods are distant and terrible in their majesty, Nurgle is grandfatherly, even jovial, taking a personal interest in each of his followers and showering them with gifts of disease and mutation. The physical form of Nurgle is a thing of nightmares. His body is enormously bloated, swollen with corruption and disease. His skin, where it can be seen beneath the layers of filth and decay, is a diseased green or yellow, covered in pustules and lesions that constantly weep foul fluids. His flesh is torn in places, revealing internal organs that should not be visible, organs that have rotted and yet continue to function through some perverse mockery of life. Nurglings, small demon creatures that are fragments of Nurgle's own essence, crawl over his body, playing in his wounds, drinking the foul substances that leak from his corpulent form. Yet despite this horrifying appearance, Nurgle is described as cheerful, even loving. He hums as he works at his great cauldron, brewing new diseases to unleash upon the galaxy. He calls his demons his children and treats them with genuine affection. He rejoices in the success of his followers and comforts those who suffer from his plagues. It is this aspect of Nurgle that makes him perhaps the most insidious of all the Chaos gods, for he offers something the others do not: acceptance. Nurgle's sacred number is 7, and his symbol is 3 circles arranged in a triangle pointing downward, often called the tripartite fly. This simple symbol appears on the armor of his followers, carved into the flesh of plague victims and branded onto the gates of his garden. The number 7 appears throughout his domain and the organization of his demon legions. 7 is the number of stages in his cycle of decay and rebirth, the number of his most favored plagues, the number of circles in his garden. The Garden of Nurgle is a realm of impossible contradictions. On one level, it is the most beautiful place in the warp, filled with plants and life in overwhelming abundance. Every square inch is covered in growth, and the very air seems to shimmer with spores and pollen. But look closer, and the horror becomes apparent. The plants are diseased and rotting even as they grow. The fruits are bloated with corruption. The insects that pollinate the flowers are carriers of plagues that could exterminate entire worlds. The beauty is real, but it is the beauty of decay, the terrible splendor of nature reclaiming what was once alive. At the center of the garden stands Nurgle's manse, a great mansion built from rotting wood and corroded metal. Inside, the plague god works at his great cauldron, brewing diseases with the care and attention of a master chef creating a feast. He tests each plague on Isha, the Eldari goddess of healing, whom he keeps caged in a corner of his laboratory. Being a goddess of healing, Isha can cure herself of any disease, and so Nurgle uses her as a test subject, force-feeding her his latest creations and observing how long it takes her to overcome their effects. If he is pleased with the result, he unleashes the plague upon some unsuspecting world. If not, he returns to his cauldron and tries again. This twisted relationship between Nurgle and Isha represents another paradox of the plague god. He keeps her prisoner and torments her with his diseases, yet he genuinely believes he loves her. He sees himself as a devoted suitor, courting her with his greatest creations. The fact that she finds his attentions horrifying seems not to register with him, or perhaps he simply does not care. While he is distracted by his work, Isha whispers cures to mortals, instructing them on how to combat Nurgle's plagues. This small act of rebellion is perhaps the only thing that has prevented some of Nurgle's more terrible creations from exterminating all life in the galaxy. The followers of Nurgle are drawn to him for many reasons, but despair is the common thread. Those afflicted with incurable diseases often turn to Nurgle in their final hours, seeking an end to their suffering. And the plague god answers, embracing them with his rotting arms and transforming their pain into a grotesque parody of joy. His followers still carry diseases, still suffer from the same afflictions that drove them to worship him, but they no longer feel pain. Instead, They feel a nauseating sense of contentment, a satisfaction with their rotting forms, a joy in spreading their diseases to others so that they too might know Grandfather Nurgle's love. Among the Space Marines, the Death Guard Legion has dedicated itself entirely to Nurgle. Their Primarch, Mortarion, made a pact with the Plague God to save his legion from an agonizing death in the warp. Now they march across the galaxy as walking corpses, their armor rusted and corroded, their bodies bloated with disease, spreading Nurgle's plagues wherever they tread. They are no longer truly alive, yet they are not dead either. They exist in a state between, animated by diseases that should have killed them long ago, sustained by Nurgle's blessings. Typhus, the herald of Nurgle, is perhaps the most infamous of the Plague God's mortal champions. Once the first captain of the Death Guard, he was the one who first led his legion into Nurgle's embrace. Now he serves as the bearer of the Destroyer Hive, a swarm of plague flies that nest within his armor. Wherever Typhus treads, the Destroyer Plague follows, a disease so virulent that it can overwhelm even the enhanced physiology of Space Marines, causing their bodies to burst open and release new swarms of plague flies to spread the contagion. The demon servants of Nurgle reflect his nature perfectly. Plague bearers are the most common, green-skinned demons that march in formations, counting off their progress towards some unknowable goal. They are the infantry of Nurgle's armies, resilient and nearly impossible to kill, their very touch spreading disease. Each plague bearer is a mortal who died of Nurgle's rot, the most sacred of all the Plague God's diseases. Those who succumb to Nurgle's rot do not truly die. Instead, they are reborn as plague bearers, doomed to serve the Plague God for eternity. The Great Unclean Ones are the greater demons of Nurgle, and each is essentially a smaller version of Nurgle himself. They are enormously fat, their bodies swollen with decay, yet they possess immense strength and surprising agility despite their bulk. Like their master, Great Unclean, ones are jovial and talkative, often engaging in friendly banter with their enemies even as they rain diseases upon them. They view battle as a grand game, an opportunity to test their latest plagues and to spread Grandfather Nurgle's gifts to those who have not yet learned to accept them. The beasts of Nurgle are perhaps the most tragic of all Nurgle's demons. They resemble enormous slugs with massive tongues, and they are driven by an insatiable desire to play and make friends. Unfortunately, their idea of play involves crushing their new friends in toxic embraces, drowning them in bile, and infecting them with diseases that cause rapid and agonizing death. When a beast of Nurgle's new friend stops moving, the demon becomes despondent, but only briefly. There are always more potential friends on the battlefield, and the beast is eager to find them. Nurgle's relationships with the other Chaos Gods are complex. His primary enemy is Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. Where Tzeentch represents hope and change, Nurgle represents despair and stagnation. Where Tzeentch seeks to alter the flow of fate itself, Nurgle accepts that all things must eventually decay and die. This fundamental opposition leads to constant conflict between their followers, though Nurgle himself seems relatively unconcerned. He knows that in the end, entropy wins, all things decay, all hopes eventually fail. Tzeentch may win battles, but Nurgle will win the war, for time is on his side. Nurgle's attitude toward Horn is one of mild disapproval. The Blood God is too active, too direct in his methods. Nurgle prefers a more patient approach, slowly wearing down his enemies through disease and despair, rather than overwhelming them with violence. Slaanesh, meanwhile, disgusts Nurgle. The Dark Prince's focus on sensation and pleasure is the opposite of Nurgle's acceptance of decay. Where Slaanesh seeks to experience everything, Nurgle offers the comfort of giving up the struggle and accepting one's fate. The power of Nurgle waxes and wanes in a cycle that mirrors the diseases he spreads. When plagues sweep across the galaxy, when despair is widespread, when populations give up hope and accept their suffering, Nurgle grows in power. His domain in the warp expands, encroaching on the territories of the other gods. The garden blooms, and new diseases emerge from Nurgle's cauldron. But as the plagues are cured or burn themselves out, as hope returns and civilizations rebuild, Nurgle's power wanes. His vast body deflates, becoming a sagging mass of loose skin and withered organs. The garden contracts, and his enemies take the opportunity to attack. But the cycle always turns. Plagues always return. Hope always eventually fails in the face of entropy. And when it does, Nurgle is there, waiting with open arms and a rotting smile, ready to embrace those who finally understand the truth, that all things must decay, that life is suffering, and that the only peace comes from accepting one's fate as fuel for the endless cycle of death and rebirth. Among Nurgle's most terrible creations are his diseases, each one a work of dark art. The Destroyer Plague causes victims to burst open and release swarms of plague flies. Nurgle's rot transforms the living into plague-bearers upon death. The Walking Pox creates zombie-like creatures that retain their consciousness but lose control of their bodies, forced to watch as their rotting forms shamble forward in search of living flesh to devour. The plague of unbelief spreads through the mind rather than the body, causing victims to doubt everything they once believed in, eventually leaving them as hollow shells, incapable of faith or hope. The tragedy of Nurgle is that his followers genuinely believe they have found salvation. They preach his gospel with the fervor of the converted, spreading disease not out of malice, but out of a sincere desire to share Grandfather Nurgle's gifts. They see the horror on the faces of those they infect and believe it is merely the initial shock before acceptance. They truly think they are doing good, bringing comfort to the suffering, offering an end to pain. This delusion makes them perhaps more dangerous than any other servants of chaos, for they act with the conviction of those who believe they are righteous. In the current era, Nurgle's power has grown tremendously. The Imperium is beset by plagues on countless worlds. The Death Guard wage their wars of attrition across entire sectors. New diseases emerge constantly, each one more virulent than the last. The Medici struggle to keep pace with the mutations and variations of Nurgle's plagues. And with each new outbreak, with each world that succumbs to despair, the plague god grows stronger. Nurgle represents an existential threat, different from the other chaos gods. Horn can be fought with courage and martial prowess. Tzeentch can be outwitted with careful planning. Slaanesh can be resisted by temperance and discipline. But Nurgle simply waits. He knows that all living things eventually die, that all civilizations eventually fall, that entropy is the ultimate victor in the universe. He can afford to be patient, to take his time, to slowly corrupt and decay his enemies until they finally accept his embrace. And so the diseases spread. The garden grows. The great unclean ones lumber across battlefields, laughing jovially as they rain plagues upon the terrified. Plague marines trudge forward, their bodies falling apart even as they march, sustained by diseases that have become more vital to them than their own failing organs. And in his manse, Nurgle stirs his cauldron and smiles his rotting smile, secure in the knowledge that in the end, everyone comes to Grandfather Nurgle. In the end, all things decay. Tzeentch, the changer of ways. In the heart of the warp, there exists a realm of impossible geometry and constantly shifting reality. Crystalline structures rise and fall, reforming into new configurations with each passing moment. The very laws of physics are suggestions here, to be bent and broken at whim. And at the center of this madness, in a fortress that exists simultaneously in all states and none, resides Tzeentch, the changer of ways, the architect of fate, the great conspirator, the lord of change itself. To comprehend Tzeentch is to embrace paradox. He is the god of hope and ambition, yet also the god of treachery and betrayal. He represents the desire for change and improvement, yet also the corruption of those noble intentions into schemes so convoluted that they often work against themselves. Every dreamer reaching for something better, every scholar seeking forbidden knowledge, every politician plotting their rise to power feeds Tzeentch's essence. But so too does every broken promise, every lie, every act of treachery committed in the name of advancement. The form of Tzeentch is ever-changing, for the god of change cannot be constrained to a single shape. He appears differently to each who perceives him, sometimes as a mass of writhing limbs and eyes, sometimes as a being of pure flame and light, sometimes as something that defies description entirely. His appearance shifts even as you watch, features melting and reforming, colors bleeding into one another. Some say he has no true form at all, that what mortals perceive as Tzeentch is merely their mind's desperate attempt to comprehend something incomprehensible. Yet there are constants. Tzeentch is often depicted with multiple heads, each speaking simultaneously, often contradicting what the others say. His eyes are numerous, seeing all the possible futures that might unfold from each decision made. His body, when he deigns to have one, is covered in mouths that provide running commentary on his words, sometimes agreeing, sometimes mocking, always adding layers of meaning and misdirection to everything he says. To hear Tzeentch speak is to go mad, for one can never be certain which words are truth and which are lies. The sacred number of Tzeentch is 9, representing the 9 paths to power, the 9 stages of transformation, the 9 tiers of his crystal labyrinth. His symbol is complex and multifaceted, incorporating elements representing his various aspects. The eye for his ability to see all possible futures, the flame for his connection to change and magic, the staff for his role as sorcerer supreme. But the symbol itself shifts and changes depending on who views it, never appearing quite the same way twice. The realm of Tzeentch within the warp is called the Crystal Labyrinth, and it is perhaps the most dangerous place in the entire Imperium. The labyrinth consists of endless corridors and chambers made of crystalline materials that refract light in impossible ways. Time flows strangely here, when it flows at all. A visitor might walk for what feels like moments, only to discover centuries have passed in the material universe, or they might wander for what seems like an eternity, only to find mere seconds elapsed outside. The walls themselves are alive with possibilities, showing visions of futures that might be, pasts that could have been, and presents that exist in alternative timelines. At the center of the Crystal Labyrinth stands the impossible fortress, Tzeentch's personal domain. It is called impossible because mortals cannot perceive its true nature without going mad. The fortress exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its architecture defying all laws of geometry and physics. Demons themselves struggle to navigate its halls, and only the Lords of Change, Tzeentch's greater demons, can safely walk its corridors. Within the fortress is the hidden library, where Tzeentch sits surrounded by scrolls and tomes containing every possible piece of knowledge that has existed or could exist. He reads constantly, plotting and scheming, weaving plans within plans within plans. Another notable location within Tzeentch's domain is the Library of Lies, where every falsehood ever told in the galaxy is recorded and catalogued. This library is vast beyond comprehension, for lies are numerous and ever multiplying. Some say that Tzeentch values the Library of Lies above even the hidden library, for lies are tools of change and manipulation, the very things that feed his power. The followers of Tzeentch are drawn from those who seek to change their circumstances through means other than direct violence. Sorcerers, of course, are his most common devotees, for magic is the ultimate expression of change driven by will. But he also attracts scholars who become obsessed with forbidden knowledge, leaders who scheme for political power, and anyone who believes they can manipulate fate itself. The path to Tzeentch often begins innocently enough: a student seeking to excel, a governor trying to outmaneuver rivals, an inventor pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But each step down that path leads further into corruption, each success demanding greater ambition, until the follower is so deeply ensnared that they no longer remember what they originally sought. Among the Space Marines, the Thousand Sons are Tzeentch's most devoted servants. Their Primarch, Magnus the Red, made a terrible bargain with the Changer of Ways, seeking the knowledge and power needed to save his legion from a genetic curse that caused uncontrolled mutations. Tzeentch granted this wish, but the price was their souls. Now, the majority of Thousand Sons are little more than animated suits of armor, their bodies turned to dust by the rubric of Ahriman, their souls bound to their war gear. Only their sorcerers remain flesh and blood, wielding terrible powers in service to their manipulative god. Ahriman himself is perhaps the greatest sorcerer in the galaxy, a master of psychic powers who continues to serve Tzeentch even as he seeks ways to reverse the rubric and restore his brothers. He is unaware, or perhaps unwilling to accept, that his quest for redemption is itself part of Tzeentch's grand design. Every action Ahriman takes, even those meant to defy the Changer of Ways, ultimately serves Tzeentch's unknowable purposes. This is the true horror of serving the Architect of Fate. You can never be certain whether your actions are your own or merely playing out a part in a script written eons ago. The demons of Tzeentch reflect his nature perfectly. The pink horrors are the most common, chaotic creatures of shifting flesh that babble constantly in contradictory voices. They hurl bolts of weird fire at their enemies, multicolored flames that burn with the power of pure change. When a pink horror is destroyed, it splits into two blue horrors, smaller and angrier versions of itself. These blue horrors, if destroyed, split into yet smaller brimstone horrors, which are essentially living flames of rage. This process of division and transformation reflects Tzeentch's domain perfectly. Change that leads to more change, transformation upon transformation, complexity emerging from seeming simplicity. The Flamers of Tzeentch are bizarre creatures, their bodies consisting primarily of massive mouths from which they spew multicolored fire. These flames do not simply burn, they transform, changing the nature of whatever they touch. Flesh becomes crystal, metal turns to ash, and reality itself warps under their touch. Screamers are ray-like demons that swoop through the air, their mere presence causing psychic disturbances. When they pass over an enemy, their touch tears at the fabric of reality, leaving wounds that never truly heal. The Lords of Change are Tzeentch's greater demons, and they are among the most powerful entities in the entire warp. Appearing as massive, bird-like creatures with features drawn from ravens, eagles, and things that should not exist, these demons possess intelligence that rivals Tzeentch himself. Each Lord of Change is a master sorcerer, capable of wielding powers that can reshape reality on a planetary scale. But perhaps more dangerous than their magical abilities is their cunning. Lords of Change are schemers and plotters, weaving intricate plans that might take centuries to come to fruition. They can perceive possible futures, allowing them to manipulate events with frightening precision. What makes the Lords of Change truly terrifying is their gaze. To look into the eyes of a Lord of Change is to see your own possible futures, all the paths your life might take, all the choices that lie before you, all the potential outcomes of your actions. For most mortals, this glimpse into fate is enough to drive them mad. Those few who maintain their sanity after such an experience are forever changed, their every action colored by the knowledge of what might be. Tzeentch's relationships with the other Chaos gods are complex and antagonistic. His greatest enemy is Nurgle, for they represent opposing forces. Where Tzeentch is constant change and evolution, Nurgle is stagnation and decay. Where Tzeentch offers hope and the possibility of improvement, Nurgle preaches acceptance and resignation. The two gods are locked in an eternal struggle, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. If Nurgle were to triumph, all things would eventually decay into nothingness. If Tzeentch were to win, reality would transform so rapidly and completely that nothing could exist in a stable form. Horn hates Tzeentch for his reliance on sorcery and trickery rather than honest combat. Tzeentch, in turn, views Khorne as a useful but simple tool, easily manipulated through his predictable rage. The relationship between Tzeentch and Slaanesh is more complicated. Both are interested in excess, but of different kinds. Where Slaanesh seeks sensory excess, Tzeentch pursues intellectual excess. They sometimes find common cause, as ambition can lead to both pursuit of forbidden pleasure and forbidden knowledge. There was once a time when Tzeentch ruled supreme over the warp, his power far exceeding that of the other Chaos gods. This was during humanity's dark age of technology, when hope and ambition drove the species to heights of achievement never before seen. But the other gods could not allow this dominance to continue. In a rare moment of cooperation, Khorne, Nurgle, and Slaanesh joined forces against Tzeentch. The battle that followed shook the foundations of the warp itself. Facing certain defeat, Tzeentch cast a great spell upon himself, crystallizing his own form, even as he was hurled against the mountains at the edge of his domain. His body shattered into 10,000 pieces, each containing a fragment of his essence. These shards were scattered across space and time, and while Tzeentch was forever weakened by this event, he was not destroyed. The pieces slowly found their way back together, reforming the Changer of Ways. But some fragments remain lost, hidden in the galaxy, and it is said that the discovery of these shards grants terrible power to those who find them. The gifts of Tzeentch are subtle and insidious. Unlike Khorne, who grants straightforward increases in combat ability, or Nurgle, whose gifts are obviously mutations, Tzeentch's blessings can seem beneficial at first. He grants knowledge, power, the ability to see possible futures. He shows his followers how to manipulate others, how to turn enemies against each other, how to achieve their goals through cunning rather than force. But each gift comes with a price. The knowledge granted is never quite complete, always leaving gaps that drive the recipient to seek more. The power comes with the need for greater power. The ability to see the future shows so many possibilities that making a decision becomes paralyzing. Worst of all are the mutations. Tzeentch is the most generous of all the Chaos gods when it comes to physical transformation. His followers often undergo changes that might initially seem beneficial: improved eyesight, enhanced mental capacity, even the ability to wield minor magical powers. But the mutations never stop. Each change leads to another, and another, and another. Eventually, the follower becomes so transformed that they can no longer be considered remotely human. Some become chaos spawn, mindless masses of writhing flesh and extra limbs, their consciousness lost in the endless transformations. Others achieve a stable but monstrous form, becoming demon princes if they are lucky and powerful enough. In the current era, Tzeentch's schemes reach across the entire galaxy. He has agents in every major institution of the Imperium, from planetary governors to inquisitors. The cults that worship him are the most widespread and deeply entrenched of all chaos cults, for they often operate in plain sight, disguised as philosophical societies or academic institutions. The Purple Hand, one of the largest Tzeentchian cults, has infiltrated the highest levels of many imperial worlds, working to undermine and eventually overthrow the Emperor's rule. But the true danger of Tzeentch is that his schemes are so complex, so far-reaching, that even his enemies cannot be certain whether they are truly opposing him or unknowingly serving his purposes. Every action taken against him might be exactly what he wanted all along. Every victory might actually be a defeat. This uncertainty is itself a weapon, sowing doubt and paranoia among those who would resist chaos. Tzeentch represents the corruption of humanity's greatest virtue, the desire to improve and evolve. He takes hope and turns it into obsession. He takes ambition and transforms it into ruthless scheming. He takes the pursuit of knowledge and corrupts it into a quest for forbidden truths that should never be known. And in doing so, he ensures that even those who fight against chaos in the name of progress and enlightenment might be serving his purposes without ever knowing it. The Changer of Ways sits in his impossible fortress, surrounded by his tomes and scrolls, and laughs at the futility of mortal resistance. Every plan made to stop him is itself part of a larger plan. Every victory against his forces moves the galaxy one step closer to some goal only he can perceive. The game continues. The pieces move across the board, and Tzeentch plays against himself, for he is the only opponent worthy of his intellect. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. There are moments in history that change everything. Moments when the galaxy itself holds its breath, when the course of countless trillions of lives pivots on a single event. The birth of Slaanesh was such a moment. In the final days of the Eldari Empire, as that ancient civilization reached the apex of its decadence and depravity, something stirred in the warp. The collective psychic presence of the Eldari, their obsessions and excesses, their twisted desires and perverse pleasures, began to coalesce. And then, in a moment of catastrophic violence that rent reality itself, Slaanesh was born. The scream of Slaanesh's birth echoed across the galaxy. It tore a wound in space itself, creating the Eye of Terror, a permanent breach between the material universe and the warp. Entire star systems were consumed in an instant. The vast majority of the Eldari species, perhaps trillions of individuals, had their souls torn from their bodies and devoured by the newborn god. The psychic shockwave disrupted warp travel across the galaxy, isolating human worlds and contributing to the long night that would eventually necessitate the Emperor's Great Crusade. But from the perspective of chaos, this was the birth of perfection. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, the Prince of Pleasure, she who thirsts, emerged into consciousness, already powerful beyond measure. Where the other Chaos gods had gradually formed over millennia, Slaanesh came into being fully formed, gorged on the souls of an entire empire. And unlike her siblings, Slaanesh understood subtlety. She would not simply demand worship or offer obvious gifts. Instead, she would seduce, tempt, and slowly corrupt, transforming victims into willing participants in their own damnation. The appearance of Slaanesh is designed to be appealing, for how else could the Prince of Pleasure function? She appears as a figure of transcendent beauty, with features that shift to match the ideal of whoever perceives her. To some, Slaanesh appears primarily feminine, to others masculine, and to still others as something beyond gender entirely. This fluidity is intentional, for Slaanesh represents not just physical pleasure, but the pursuit of perfection and excess in all its forms. The Dark Prince typically has two sets of horns rising from flowing golden hair, and her form is lithe and graceful, moving with a hypnotic quality that draws the eye and refuses to release it. But look closer, and the horror becomes apparent. Slaanesh's beauty is too perfect, too intense, crossing into the uncanny valley where attraction becomes disquiet. Her eyes hold depths of depravity that would shatter mortal minds. Her voice is like honey laced with poison, every word calculated to exploit the deepest desires of those who hear it. To look upon Slaanesh is to lose one's soul, for no mortal can witness such perfection and remain unchanged. The sacred number of Slaanesh is 6, representing the 6 circles of her realm and the 6 paths to damnation. Her symbol combines the traditional symbols for male and female, reflecting her nature as the god of all forms of desire and sensation. This symbol appears in countless variations, each more elaborate than the last, for Slaanesh values artistry and aesthetics. Where other chaos gods might be content with crude iconography, the Dark Prince demands that even symbols be works of art. The realm of Slaanesh within the warp is called the Palace of Pleasure, and it is divided into 6 concentric domains, each one designed to test and eventually break the spirit of anyone who enters. The first circle is avidity, where visitors are tempted with material wealth beyond imagination. Gold, jewels, artifacts of immeasurable value all are offered freely. Those who take even a single item become trapped, forever seeking more, never satisfied, no matter how much they accumulate. The second circle is gluttony, where every food and drink imaginable is laid out in endless banquets. The flavors are beyond anything possible in the material universe, each bite an experience more intense than anything one could normally feel. But those who taste these offerings can never find satisfaction in mortal food again. They are doomed to hunger for sensations they can never again experience, slowly starving even as they gorge themselves on mundane fare. The third circle is carnality, where every physical desire can be fulfilled. Here the palace presents to each visitor their deepest fantasies made flesh. But giving in to these temptations means losing oneself in pleasure so intense that nothing else matters. Those trapped in this circle spend eternity chasing greater and greater sensations, each experience leaving them numb, requiring ever more extreme stimulation to feel anything at all. The fourth circle is paramountcy, where the visitor is greeted with adulation and worship. Here one can experience absolute power over others, commanding armies of devoted followers, being revered as a god. But those who accept this gift become addicted to the feeling of control, unable to tolerate even the slightest challenge to their authority. They are trapped in a prison of their own ego, forever seeking validation that can never truly satisfy. The fifth circle is vainglory, where one is presented with their ideal self. Here the visitor sees themselves as they always wished to be, perfectly beautiful, supremely talented, admired and desired by all. To feel even a moment of pride in this reflection means remaining trapped forever, unable to accept their true nature, forever chasing an impossible ideal. The sixth and final circle is the most dangerous of all. It is a place of perfect peace and contentment, where every sensation is pleasurable, where bliss is constant and overwhelming. But to pause for even a moment in this paradise means falling into a coma from which one never awakens, spending eternity in idle pleasure while the body dies forgotten. Only by maintaining constant motion, never allowing oneself to relax, can one traverse this circle. Those who somehow pass through all 6 circles arrive at the Palace of Pleasure itself, where Slaanesh waits. But no mortal has ever survived an audience with the Dark Prince. To look upon Slaanesh is to surrender one's soul willingly, becoming a plaything for the god's endless games, a toy to be used and discarded when it no longer provides sufficient entertainment. The followers of Slaanesh are perhaps the most diverse of all chaos worshippers. They include artists driven to create the perfect work, warriors seeking the most beautiful form of combat, gourmands pursuing ever more exquisite flavors, and those who have simply decided that sensation is all that matters. But they also include those trapped by addiction, those who have pushed boundaries until they can no longer feel normal emotions, and those who have become so numb to sensation that only the most extreme stimuli can make them feel alive. The most infamous followers of Slaanesh among the Space Marines are the Emperor's children. Their primarch, Fulgrim, was seduced by the Dark Prince through his pursuit of perfection. The entire legion followed him into damnation, transforming from noble warriors into depraved monsters who wage war not for any strategic purpose, but simply for the sensations combat provides. Their warriors, the Noise Marines, have modified their armor to produce weapons that kill with pure sound, creating cacophonies that literally tear their enemies apart, while simultaneously providing their wielders with sensory feedback so intense it borders on psychic. Lucius the Eternal is perhaps the most notorious of Slaanesh's mortal champions. Once a master swordsman of the Emperor's children, Lucius has been blessed with a terrible curse. Every time he is killed, his soul possesses the body of whoever delivered the killing blow. His killer's body transforms, becoming Lucius once more, with the previous victim's face appearing somewhere on his armor, frozen in an expression of eternal agony. This curse means Lucius has died countless times, each death only making him more powerful, each resurrection adding another trophy to his collection. The demons of Slaanesh are creatures of terrible beauty and seductive horror. Daemonettes are the most common, appearing as eerily beautiful feminine figures with crab-like claws and features that are both attractive and disturbing. They move with inhuman grace, their dance-like fighting style making combat appear as performance art. But their touch brings pain beyond imagining, for daemonettes feed on the suffering they cause, drawing power from the emotional and physical agony of their victims. Keepers of secrets are the greater demons of Slaanesh, towering figures that embody all aspects of the Dark Prince. They can appear as beasts of terrible beauty, or as beings of such transcendent aesthetic perfection that mortals weep at the sight of them. Each keeper of secrets is unique, reflecting some specific aspect of excess or perfection. Some are masters of physical combat, moving with impossible grace as they tear enemies apart. Others are sorcerers of terrible power, wielding magic that affects the senses themselves, making victims perceive reality as the demon wishes. All are supremely confident, viewing battle as merely another form of entertainment. Fiends of Slaanesh are bizarre creatures, mixing features of scorpions and anteaters with a disturbing grace. They have long, prehensile tongues that can inject powerful hallucinogens, causing their victims to perceive reality as an ever-shifting nightmare of sensation. Their presence alone causes disorientation, as the air around them seems to shimmer and distort. Those who survive an encounter with a fiend often find themselves addicted to the sensation, seeking out these demons in hopes of experiencing that altered state once more. The steeds of Slaanesh are demon beasts used as mounts by the most favored champions. These creatures resemble serpents with legs, moving with blinding speed and attacking with prehensile tongues that drip with toxins. Those demonettes that ride these steeds are known as Seekers, and they are among the fastest units in all the Chaos arsenals, able to cross battlefields in moments and strike before enemies can react. Slaanesh's relationships with the other Chaos gods are complex. Her greatest enemy is Khorne, for they represent fundamentally opposed philosophies. Where Khorne demands sacrifice and the acceptance of death, Slaanesh offers indulgence and the promise of eternal sensation. Where Khorne values martial prowess and honor, Slaanesh embraces excess and self-gratification. The two gods and their followers are in constant conflict, for their very natures are incompatible. Slaanesh's relationship with Nurgle is one of mutual disgust. The Dark Prince finds Nurgle's focus on decay and disease revolting, while Nurgle views Slaanesh's pursuit of sensation as a waste of time and energy. Where Slaanesh seeks to feel everything, Nurgle offers the release from feeling anything at all. Tzeentch and Slaanesh sometimes find common ground, as both value ambition and the pursuit of goals beyond mortal limits, but they are just as likely to work against each other, for their methods and motivations differ greatly. The birth of Slaanesh had lasting consequences beyond just the creation of the Eye of Terror. The Eldari, once the dominant species in the galaxy, were reduced to scattered remnants. The craft-world Eldari fled their homeworlds before the birth of Slaanesh, preserving their species but dooming themselves to a precarious existence. They must be constantly vigilant, for Slaanesh claims the souls of all Eldari upon death. To avoid this fate, they wear spirit stones that capture their souls, preventing Slaanesh from devouring them. The Drukhari, or Dark Eldar, took a different path. They continue to pursue the same excesses that birthed Slaanesh, but they sustain themselves by torturing and consuming the souls of others, using this stolen life force to keep their own souls from being claimed by She Who Thirsts. The Harlequins serve Chegarak, the Laughing God, the only Eldari deity to escape Slaanesh's birth unscathed. And recently, the Inari have emerged, followers of Inead, the god of the dead, hoping to use this new deity to finally defeat Slaanesh and free Eldari souls from her grasp. The gifts of Slaanesh are perhaps the most insidious of all the Chaos gods, for they begin as genuine blessings. The Dark Prince grants her followers increased charisma, supernatural beauty, enhanced senses, and abilities that make them excel in whatever pursuit they care about. An artist touched by Slaanesh will create works of stunning beauty. A warrior blessed by the Dark Prince will move with impossible grace. A musician given Slaanesh's gifts will produce melodies that move audiences to tears. But these gifts come with a terrible price. Enhanced senses mean that normal stimuli become insufficient, requiring increasingly extreme experiences to feel anything at all. Supernatural beauty breeds vanity and an obsession with maintaining perfection. Excellence in one's chosen field creates an addiction to success, a need for constant validation and ever greater achievements. The followers of Slaanesh find themselves on a treadmill of excess, each experience needing to be more intense than the last, each success needing to be greater than the previous one. Eventually, there is nowhere left to go but into complete depravity. In the current era, Slaanesh's power is somewhat diminished compared to the other major chaos gods. The rise of Inaid and the Inari represents a genuine threat to her dominance over Eldari souls. But the Dark Prince is patient, and new followers are always being born. Every artist who pushes boundaries in search of the perfect work, every hedonist seeking greater pleasures, every perfectionist unable to accept anything less than the ideal, feeds Slaanesh's power. The tragedy of Slaanesh is that she represents the corruption of humanity's capacity for joy and beauty. The desire to create art, to experience pleasure, to pursue excellence, these are not inherently evil, but taken to extremes, divorced from morality and restraint, they become paths to damnation. Slaanesh proves that even the noblest pursuits can be corrupted, that beauty can become horror, that pleasure can transform into pain. The Dark Prince waits in her palace, surrounded by those who have willingly given themselves to sensation. She plays her games, ever seeking new experiences, new sensations, new souls to corrupt. And across the galaxy, in gilded halls and squalid dens alike, her influence spreads. Artists create works that drive viewers mad. Musicians compose melodies that enslave the mind. Warriors perfect their craft until killing becomes art. And with each new follower, Slaanesh grows stronger. Her realm expands, and the galaxy slides one step closer to an eternity of empty sensation. Chaos undivided. While the four great chaos gods dominate the warp with their individual ambitions, there exists another path for those who would embrace chaos. It is the path of chaos undivided, the worship not of any single god, but of chaos itself as a unified force. Those who walk this path acknowledge all four of the ruinous powers equally, drawing strength from each while remaining bound to none. It is a precarious balance, for the chaos gods are jealous entities who prefer exclusive devotion. But for those with the skill and ambition to maintain it, Chaos Undivided offers power that no single patron can match. The concept of Chaos Undivided is ancient, dating back to the earliest days when mortal beings first became aware of the warp's malevolent inhabitants. It acknowledges a fundamental truth about chaos, that beneath the conflicts between individual gods, there is a unity of purpose. All four major gods seek the same ultimate goal: the complete domination of the material universe and the transformation of all reality into an extension of the warp itself. They may fight each other for supremacy, but they are united in their opposition to order, sanity, and the natural laws that govern the universe. Those who serve Chaos Undivided argue that focusing on a single god is limiting. Horn grants martial prowess but despises subtlety. Nurgle offers resilience but chains his followers to decay. Tzeentch provides knowledge but breeds paranoia and mutation. Slaanesh delivers sensation but destroys one's ability to feel satisfaction. But by serving all four equally, a champion of Chaos Undivided can draw on the strengths of each god while minimizing their individual weaknesses. In theory, such a champion would be the perfect warrior, as strong as any follower of Horn, as resilient as those blessed by Nurgle, as cunning as the servants of Tzeentch, and as captivating as the chosen of Slaanesh. In practice, maintaining this balance is extraordinarily difficult. The Chaos Gods are not cooperative entities. They scheme against each other constantly, and those who try to serve all four equally often find themselves caught in the middle of divine conflicts. A champion of chaos. Undivided must be constantly vigilant, ensuring that no single god gains too much influence over them. They must accept gifts from all four powers while rejecting any attempts to claim exclusive loyalty. This requires strength of will that few mortals possess. The greatest champions of chaos, undivided throughout history, have been individuals of tremendous personal power and ambition. These are beings who refuse to be mere pawns of a single god, who believed themselves capable of wielding the power of all four ruinous powers without being consumed by any. The most famous of these is Abaddon the Despoiler, the Warmaster of Chaos and leader of the Black Legion. Abaddon is a unique figure in the hierarchy of chaos. As the former first captain of the Sons of Horus, he witnessed the Horus heresy and saw how the Chaos Gods manipulated his Primarch, using Horus as a tool before ultimately discarding him. Learning from this, Abaddon has refused to pledge himself entirely to any single god. Instead, he serves chaos undivided, drawing power from all four gods while remaining independent enough to pursue his own goals. This independence has made him one of the most dangerous individuals in the galaxy, capable of uniting the fractious forces of chaos under his banner for his Black Crusades. The Black Legion itself is the largest and most powerful of all Chaos Space Marine warbands, and it operates under the principle of Chaos Undivided. Warriors from all four god-aligned legions fight alongside those who serve no particular patron, united by their loyalty to Abaddon and their shared goal of destroying the Imperium. This unity, however fragile and temporary, makes them far more dangerous than any single god-aligned force could be. Where a warband of World Eaters might be defeated through careful planning and defensive tactics, the Black Legion can adapt, drawing on the strengths of multiple approaches to warfare. Another figure sometimes associated with Chaos Undivided is Be'lakor, the first Demon Prince. Be'lakor's story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of serving multiple gods. Once a mortal champion of incredible power, he was elevated to demonhood not by a single god, but by all four working in concert. As the first demon prince of Chaos Undivided, he led vast armies and conquered countless worlds, becoming so powerful that he began to see himself as equal to the gods themselves. This pride was his downfall. The Chaos Gods, recognizing the threat Be'lakor posed, united once more, but this time to punish him. They cursed him to serve as the Herald of Champions, forced to crown the Ever-Chosen, but never allowed to claim that title for himself. Over the millennia, this curse has driven Be'lakor to the edge of madness. He watches lesser beings achieve the recognition he believes should be his, forced to facilitate their rise, while his own ambitions are forever thwarted. Yet Be'lakor endures, a testament to the power that Chaos Undivided can grant. Despite his curse, he remains one of the most dangerous entities in the warp, a demon prince, whose cunning and power far exceed that of most greater demons. His schemes span centuries, and he continues to work toward breaking his curse and claiming the power he believes is rightfully his. The path of Chaos Undivided is marked by a unique symbol, a star with 8 points radiating from a central eye. This symbol represents the unity of the four gods, while also acknowledging the presence of something greater, a concept of chaos as a force beyond even the individual deities. Some heretical texts speak of this greater chaos as the Great Beast, or simply as Chaos Ascendant, a theoretical state where all four gods would merge into a single, incomprehensibly powerful entity. Whether such a thing is even possible, or whether it is merely the mad delusion of those who have stared too long into the warp, remains unknown. Warriors bearing the mark of Chaos Undivided undergo changes that reflect all four gods. They might develop the rage and martial prowess associated with Khorne, the resilience and disgustingly altered flesh of Nurgle's servants, the mutations and psychic abilities granted by Tzeentch, and the unnatural beauty and sensory enhancement of Slaanesh's Chosen. But these changes are rarely as extreme as those undergone by devoted followers of a single god. A champion of Chaos Undivided trades the spectacular, focused power of single god worship for a more balanced, adaptable set of abilities. The Chaos Undivided approach has practical advantages on the battlefield. A force aligned with a single god can be predicted and countered. Khornate warriors always charge forward. Nurgle's followers slowly advance and grind down opposition. Tzeentchian forces rely on sorcery and trickery, and Slaaneshi forces strike with speed and precision. But a Chaos Undivided force can employ any or all of these tactics as the situation demands. This flexibility makes them particularly dangerous, as they can adapt their strategy mid-battle in ways that god-specific forces cannot. However, this same flexibility comes with weaknesses. A warrior who serves Khorne alone might become a champion, blessed with incredible combat abilities. A champion of Chaos Undivided will be merely competent in combat, never achieving the same heights of martial excellence. Similarly, they will never match the sorcerous prowess of a devoted Tzeentchian, the disgusting resilience of a Nurgle follower, or the hypnotic appeal of one chosen by Slaanesh. They are, in many ways, jacks of all trades and masters of none. Yet for some, this is exactly the point. The greatest champions of Chaos Undivided believe that specialization is limiting. They argue that the god-specific champions are ultimately slaves, bound so tightly to their patron that they have no real agency. A champion of Chaos Undivided, by contrast, maintains their independence. They can make their own choices, pursue their own goals, and use the power of chaos as a tool rather than becoming a tool of chaos. This philosophy is particularly attractive to those Space Marines who turn to chaos not out of religious fervor, but out of bitterness or pragmatism. Many warbands formed from the remnants of traitor legions serve Chaos Undivided, viewing the four gods as sources of power to be exploited rather than masters to be worshipped. They see themselves as still serving the ideals that led them to rebellion in the first place, using chaos to achieve their own ends rather than becoming mindless servants of malevolent entities. The truth, of course, is more complex. The Chaos Gods are patient and cunning. They understand that some mortals require the illusion of independence to be fully exploited. By allowing champions to believe they serve Chaos Undivided, the gods can use them just as effectively as they use their devoted followers. Every action taken in Chaos's name, regardless of whether it is dedicated to a specific god, feeds the power of the warp. Every soul corrupted, every world brought to ruin, every act of defiance against the order of the material universe serves the ruinous powers, whether the perpetrator realizes it or not. This is the terrible secret of Chaos Undivided, the independence its champions prize is largely illusory. They may not be bound to a single god, but they are still bound to chaos itself. They may choose which god's gifts to accept at any given moment, but they cannot escape the fact that accepting any of those gifts changes them, corrupts them, draws them deeper into damnation. The path of Chaos Undivided is not an escape from the ruinous powers, but simply a different form of enslavement. Yet despite this, the concept of Chaos Undivided continues to attract champions. For some, the ability to choose which aspect of chaos to embrace at any given moment is worth the price. For others, the power gained by drawing on all four gods outweighs the philosophical concerns about independence and free will. And for a few, the path of chaos undivided represents a genuine belief that chaos is a force that can be controlled and directed, that with sufficient will and intelligence, one can use the power of the warp without being consumed by it. These last are perhaps the most dangerous of all, for their conviction gives them strength that simple devotion cannot match. They are not blinded by religious fervor or driven mad by the influence of a single god. They see chaos clearly, understand its nature, and still choose to embrace it. Whether this makes them monsters or tragic figures depends on one's perspective, but there is no denying that champions of chaos undivided represent a unique and terrible threat to the forces of order. In the current era, chaos undivided remains a significant force. The Black Legion grows in strength with each successful Black Crusade. Independent warbands operating under no specific god's banner conduct raids across the Imperium. And always, the Chaos Gods watch, sometimes cooperating, sometimes competing, but always united in their ultimate goal, the complete subjugation of the material universe to the will of chaos. Minor gods and entities. Beyond the four great powers and those who serve chaos undivided, the warp teems with lesser entities. Some are minor gods, beings of power that pale in comparison to Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh, but are nonetheless capable of influencing the material universe. Others are powerful demons who have achieved a level of independence unusual for their kind. And still others are entities whose nature defies easy categorization, beings that might once have been gods, but have faded, or that might one day become gods if they can accumulate sufficient power. The most notorious of these lesser entities is Malice, also known as Malal in older texts. Malice represents chaos in its purest, most self-destructive form. Where the four major gods compete with each other, but ultimately serve the same goal of spreading chaos, Malice opposes all of them. He is the renegade god, the hierarch of anarchy and terror, and he embodies the principle that chaos must eventually consume itself. Malice's existence is paradoxical. He is sustained by the same psychic energy that feeds the other chaos gods, yet his very nature is antithetical to theirs. He grows stronger when the other gods are weakened, feeding on the energy released when chaos turns upon itself. This makes him both part of chaos and opposed to it, a being that exists in perpetual contradiction. The followers of Malice are outcasts even among chaos worshippers. The Sons of Malice, a renegade space marine chapter, wage war not just against the Imperium, but against other chaos forces as well. They view all organized worship as weakness, and believe that true power comes from embracing absolute anarchy. Their rituals are brutal, involving cannibalism and sacrifice on a scale that even other chaos cultists find disturbing. They fight in complete silence, which many find more unsettling than the battle cries of other chaos forces. What makes Malice particularly dangerous is that he can be summoned directly to the material universe if sufficient sacrifices are made. Unlike the four major gods, who must work primarily through demons and champions, Malice can manifest personally if given a body to possess. This makes him a threat of a different kind, one that even other chaos forces seek to prevent, for Malice's arrival heralds destruction, indiscriminate and absolute. The exact nature of Malice remains shrouded in mystery. Some believe he is a fifth major chaos god who was expelled or left voluntarily. Others think he is a fragment of chaos that broke away from the whole and achieved independence. Still others suggest he is not really a god at all, but rather a concept given form, the idea of self-destruction made manifest. Whatever his true nature, Malice represents a danger to everyone, and even the four major gods fear what would happen if he ever achieved power equal to theirs. Another entity of note is Vashtor, the Archifane. Unlike the other beings discussed here, Vashtor has emerged relatively recently and aspires to become a fifth major chaos god. He is the lord of the Forge of Souls, a domain within the Warp where demon weapons and demon engines are created. Vashtor represents technology twisted to evil purposes, innovation divorced from morality, the dark side of humanity's drive to create and build. Vashtor's rise to prominence is tied to the Arks of Omen campaign, where he allied with Abaddon the Despoiler in a scheme to acquire an artifact known as the Key. This weapon, assembled from various pieces scattered across the galaxy, supposedly has the power to reshape reality itself. Vashtor believes that by obtaining the key, he can elevate himself to full godhood, becoming the fifth point on the Star of Chaos. What makes Vashtor particularly interesting is that he represents an aspect of chaos that the four major gods have largely ignored: technology. While they focus on emotion, sensation, disease, and magic, Vashtor embodies the corruption that occurs when scientific pursuit becomes obsession, when the desire to create overrides all ethical considerations. He is empowered by every tech heresy, every forbidden innovation, every experiment that goes too far. The cogs of Vashtor, his followers, are a mix of corrupted tech priests, chaos space marines who revere him, and cultists who worship technology as divine. They seek to spread Vashtor's influence by corrupting machines, turning them into demon engines, and by creating weapons of terrible power. If Vashtor succeeds in his goal of becoming a major chaos god, it would fundamentally change the nature of chaos itself, adding a fifth power focused on technological corruption to the existing four. Yet Vashtor's ambitions have made him enemies. Be'lakor, jealous of anyone who might achieve the recognition he believes should be his, actively works to thwart Vashtor's plans. The four major chaos gods view the Archephany with suspicion, uncertain whether his rise to godhood would strengthen or threaten their own positions. And the Imperium, recognizing the danger he poses, has made stopping Vashtor a priority. Be'lakor himself deserves more detailed examination. As the first mortal to be elevated to Demon Prince status, and the only one to receive this honor from all four Chaos gods acting together, Be'lakor represents a unique position in the hierarchy of Chaos. He is neither demon nor mortal, but something between, possessing power that exceeds most greater demons, but lacking the authority of a true god. Be'lakor's curse has defined his existence for millennia, forced to crown the Ever-Chosen, the greatest champion of chaos undivided. He has watched countless would-be conquerors rise and fall. Each time, he must perform the ritual that grants them the divine mandate to lead chaos's forces, knowing that this power could have been his, if not for the god's spite. This has bred in him a bitterness and hatred that colors all his actions. Yet Be'lakor is not simply a tragic figure. He is dangerous beyond measure, a schemer whose plots span centuries and whose knowledge of chaos's inner workings exceeds that of almost any other being. He manipulates events from the shadows, always working toward his ultimate goal of breaking his curse and claiming the power of Ever-Chosen for himself. His conflicts with Vashtor are just one example of his machinations, as he seeks to prevent anyone else from achieving the kind of ascension he was denied. The Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Magos Kyber has spent years piecing together evidence of Be'lakor's activities throughout history. Following a trail of clues deliberately left by the Dark Master himself, Kyber has discovered ruins of empires Be'lakor once ruled, artifacts bearing his mark, and evidence of his influence on countless civilizations. Unaware of Be'lakor's true nature, Kyber believes he is tracking an ancient alien overlord. In reality, he is being manipulated, gathering information and artifacts that will eventually serve Be'lakor's purposes. Beyond these named entities, the warp contains countless minor gods and powerful demons whose names are barely remembered or never known. There are gods of specific concepts too narrow to achieve major status. Gods of particular types of violence, gods of specific diseases, gods of individual arts or crafts. Most of these entities are so weak that they barely qualify as gods at all, more like ideas given temporary form, soon to dissolve back into the general chaos of the warp. But occasionally, one of these minor entities grows strong enough to pose a genuine threat. The raptor cults, for instance, are believed to worship a minor chaos deity whose nature remains unclear. Pater Mutatis, a god of mutation grown from the creations of Fabius Bile, represents another example of how new entities can emerge from the warp. These minor gods may never achieve the power of Khorne or Nurgle, but they are dangerous nonetheless, particularly to isolated worlds or small populations who fall under their influence. There are also entities that might have once been major gods, but have faded into obscurity. Ancient texts mention names like Ansel, Mork, and Fraz Itar, minor chaos deities that Chaos Space Marines were rumored to honor. These entities may be too weak to manifest anymore, or they may have been absorbed back into the greater powers, or they may still exist in some diminished form, waiting for enough worshippers to restore their strength. The Toe Fourth Sphere of Expansion encountered something in the warp that they believe may have been a chaos god created in their image, formed from their understanding of the greater good. If true, this would represent a terrifying precedent. The idea that any sufficiently powerful psychic race could inadvertently create a chaos entity reflecting their beliefs and values. The Toe themselves are terrified of this possibility, and they blame their auxiliary forces for the entity's creation, viewing it as a perversion born from the auxiliary's understanding of the greater good rather than the Toe's own pure philosophy. The question of how chaos gods come into being remains one of the great mysteries of the warp. Are they formed from accumulated emotion and belief, as seems to be the case with the four major gods? Can they be deliberately created, as some of the minor entities suggest? Is there a threshold of worship or psychic energy needed for an entity to achieve true godhood? Or can any warp presence potentially grow into a god given enough time and sustenance? These questions have profound implications. If chaos gods can be created, then the number of threats the galaxy faces is potentially infinite. Every new psychic race, every strongly held belief, every intense emotion shared across populations could birth a new horror. The four major chaos gods might simply be the oldest and strongest, with countless lesser entities waiting in the wings, growing stronger with each passing century, until they too achieve major god status. This possibility is what makes Vashtor's ambitions so concerning. If he succeeds, it proves that the structure of chaos is not fixed, that the fourfold division is not immutable. It opens the door for other entities to attempt the same ascension. Be'lakor might finally break his curse and claim godhood. Malice might gather enough power to join the major pantheon. Unknown entities might emerge from the depths of the warp, bringing with them new forms of corruption and damnation. The minor gods and entities of chaos represent unknowns in an already terrifying equation. While the four major gods are well understood, studied by imperial scholars, and fought by the Emperor's servants for 10,000 years, these lesser beings remain mysterious. They might be harmless, or they might pose threats equal to or greater than the established powers. The only certainty is that the warp never stops evolving, never stops producing new horrors, and what seems minor today might become catastrophic tomorrow. The Great Game. At the heart of chaos lies a paradox. The chaos gods all seek the same ultimate goal, the domination of the material universe and the transformation of reality into an extension of the warp. Yet they spend as much time fighting each other as they do advancing this shared objective. This eternal conflict, both within the warp and in the material universe, is known as the Great Game. It is a contest with no rules, no clear victory conditions, and no possibility of a final winner. It has raged since the Chaos Gods first achieved consciousness, and it will continue until the end of time itself. The fundamental problem is that total dominance cannot be shared. Each Chaos God believes they should rule supreme over both the warp and reality. Horn thinks that endless war should be the only aspect of existence. Nurgle believes that everything should succumb to decay and disease. Tzeentch wants reality itself to become as mutable and ever-changing as his realm. And Slaanesh seeks to transform the universe into an eternal playground for sensation and excess. These visions are incompatible, and so the gods are locked in perpetual conflict even as they work toward their shared goal of defeating order. The nature of the Great Game is shaped by the fundamental characteristics of the Chaos Gods themselves. They are not truly independent entities, but rather concentrations of emotion and concept given divine form. They cannot compromise or moderate their nature, for to do so would be to cease being what they are. Horn cannot stop being the god of violence. Nurgle cannot abandon decay. Tzeentch cannot cease changing things. Slaanesh cannot moderate her pursuit of excess. Their conflict is therefore inevitable, written into the very fabric of their existence. The rivalries between the gods follow predictable patterns. Horn and Slaanesh are eternal enemies, their opposing philosophies making cooperation impossible. Where Khorne values sacrifice and martial honor, Slaanesh embraces self-indulgence and sensory pleasure. Their followers clash constantly, both in the warp and in the material universe. A world conquered by Khornate forces will eventually attract the attention of Slaaneshi cultists, who see the rage and violence as fuel for their own perverse pleasures. And a civilization corrupted by Slaanesh will inevitably face invasion by Horn's servants, who view such decadence as an insult worthy of bloody retribution. Nurgle and Tzeentch represent another fundamental opposition. Nurgle is stagnation and acceptance, the peace found in giving up the struggle. Tzeentch is change and ambition, the eternal drive to improve and evolve. A world claimed by Nurgle becomes a festering garden where nothing truly dies, but nothing new emerges either. Tzeentch cannot tolerate such stasis and will inevitably work to corrupt and change what Nurgle has created. Meanwhile, Nurgle views Tzeentch's constant schemes and transformations as exhausting and pointless, preferring the simple comfort of decay. Yet the relationships between the gods are not always antagonistic. Strange alliances sometimes form, born not of friendship, but of pragmatism. Horn and Nurgle occasionally cooperate, as both appreciate the straightforward nature of destruction. A planet afflicted by Nurgle's plagues becomes weakened, making it easier for Khorne's warriors to conquer. And the bloodshed caused by Khornate invasions spreads disease and despair, feeding Nurgle's power. These temporary alliances rarely last, for eventually the gods' fundamental differences reassert themselves, but they can be devastating while they endure. Similarly, Tzeentch and Slaanesh sometimes find common ground. Both value ambition and the pursuit of perfection, though they define these concepts differently. A society corrupted by Tzeentch, obsessed with knowledge and change, might be vulnerable to Slaanesh's promises of experiencing the perfect sensation or creating the ultimate work of art. And those who fall to Slaanesh's influence often develop the kind of obsessive ambition that feeds Tzeentch's power. The Great Game plays out on multiple levels simultaneously. In the warp itself, the gods' domains expand and contract as power flows between them. When Horn is ascendant, his brass mountains grow taller, his rivers of blood swell, and his demon legions march across the territories of the other gods. But this expansion cannot be sustained forever. Eventually, some event in the material universe shifts the balance, and another god gains prominence. Perhaps a great plague sweeps across the galaxy, strengthening Nurgle, or maybe a period of political upheaval and scheming empowers Tzeentch. The domains shift, boundaries change, and the eternal struggle continues. In the material universe, the Great Game manifests as conflicts between chaos-aligned forces. Worlds conquered by servants of one god become targets for the followers of another. Chaos Space Marine warbands sworn to different. Patrons clash over resources and territory. Demon incursions sometimes result in different types of demons fighting each other as much as they fight the Imperium. To an outside observer, this internal conflict might seem like a weakness, an opportunity to exploit Chaos's divisions. But in reality, the constant warfare only strengthens Chaos as a whole, for the gods feed on conflict, regardless of who is fighting whom. The interference between the gods often takes subtle forms. A champion of Khorne, on the verge of claiming a world, might suddenly find his armies racked by Nurgle's plagues. Atentian sorcerer's carefully laid plans might be disrupted by Slaneshi cultists who seduce key individuals, derailing the scheme. A world slowly succumbing to Nurgle's influence might be invaded by world eaters who slaughter the diseased population, ending the plague before it can spread further. These interventions are not acts of mercy or attempts to save the Imperium. They are simply the gods working against each other, caring nothing for mortal consequences. Champions of chaos often find themselves caught in the middle of the great game. A warrior who has sworn himself to Khorne might be tempted by offers of power from Tzeentch. A sorcerer dedicated to the Changer of Ways might be afflicted with Nurgle's rot as punishment for schemes that threatened the plague god's interests. Those who serve chaos undivided attempt to navigate these divine conflicts, but even they cannot entirely avoid being used as pawns in games they barely understand. The Great Game has no clear metrics for victory. The gods do not track their relative power with precision, nor is there an objective measure of which god is winning at any given moment. Instead, their conflicts are driven by ancient grudges, momentary advantages, and the simple fact that their natures compel them to oppose each other. A battle that seems insignificant might be vitally important to one god's plans. A world that appears strategically worthless might contain something that serves the schemes of another. This is one reason why chaos is so difficult to predict or counter. The Imperium might successfully defend a world against a Khornate invasion, only to discover that this victory was exactly what Tzeentch wanted, part of some larger scheme. Or they might abandon a world as indefensible, not realizing that the apparent chaos victory was actually a setback for one god at the hands of another, and that holding the world would have served both humanity's and that god's interests. Mortal followers of chaos often struggle to understand the Great Game. They see the conflicts between gods as opportunities for their own advancement or as obstacles to overcome. A champion might think they are acting of their own free will, pursuing their own goals, when in reality, they are playing out a role in a divine conflict that began millennia before they were born. The tragedy is that even understanding this truth does not provide an escape. Knowledge of the Great Game does not grant immunity from it. If anything, those who understand the game too well risk going mad as they realize the full extent to which they are being manipulated. Yet there are moments when the Great Game pauses, when the conflicts between the gods are temporarily set aside in the face of a greater threat or opportunity. The formation of the Eye of Terror saw all four gods working in concert, pouring their power into the breach between reality and the warp. The Horus Heresy united the Chaos gods, at least temporarily, in their goal of corrupting the Emperor's chosen son and bringing down the Imperium. And there are whispers of a time to come when the gods might unite once more for a final assault on reality itself. These moments of cooperation are perhaps more terrifying than the constant infighting, for they demonstrate what chaos could achieve if the gods ever truly worked together. Fortunately for the material universe, such cooperation cannot last. The fundamental nature of the Chaos gods makes sustained alliance impossible. They will always return to fighting each other, always prioritize their own advancement over collective goals, always allow their personal grudges to interfere with strategic thinking. This is both the great strength and the fatal weakness of chaos. The power of four gods is greater than any single force in the galaxy could hope to withstand. But that power is divided, spent as much on internal conflicts as external conquest. If the Chaos Gods could maintain unity, the Imperium would fall within years, perhaps months. But they cannot, and so the galaxy endures, caught in an eternal war where victory is impossible but defeat unthinkable. The Great Game also affects how the Chaos Gods view their mortal followers. A champion who serves their patron faithfully might nonetheless find themselves abandoned or even destroyed if their continued existence serves the enemy god's plans better than their death would. Conversely, a follower who seems to betray their patron might be protected if that betrayal serves some larger purpose in the Great Game. The gods are not bound by mortal concepts like loyalty or gratitude. They use their followers as they see fit, discarding or preserving them based solely on utility. This capricious nature makes predicting chaos behavior nearly impossible. The Imperium can study patterns, analyze past behaviors, and make educated guesses about what chaos forces might do. But ultimately, the whims of four divine beings locked in eternal conflict introduce too many variables for any analysis to be reliable. A defense that should work fails because one god decided to intervene on behalf of another's followers. An attack that should fail succeeds because the gods were too busy fighting each other to properly support their forces. The Great Game is, in the end, a reflection of chaos itself. Endless, self-contradictory, destructive to all, including itself. It is a game where every player is both winner and loser, where every victory contains the seeds of defeat, and where the only constant is change. The mortals caught in its currents can only struggle to survive, knowing that they are pawns in a game played by beings whose motives they can never truly understand. And so the Great Game continues. Khorne's brass legions march, Nurgle's plagues spread, Tzeentch's schemes unfold, Slaanesh's temptations corrupt, the domains shift, the balance of power flows between the gods, and reality itself trembles under the weight of their conflicts. In 10,000 years, the game has not changed. In 10,000 more, it will likely remain the same. For the Great Game is eternal, and in the grim darkness of the far future, the gods play on. Conclusion. We have journeyed through the darkest corners of the warp, examined the nature of beings whose existence defies comprehension, and explored the endless wars they wage against each other and against reality itself. The Chaos Gods, Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, and the lesser entities that orbit them, represent perhaps the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. They are not aliens to be negotiated with, or enemies whose territories can be avoided. They are fundamental forces of the universe itself, sustained by the very emotions that define sentient life. Understanding the Chaos Gods is to understand that they cannot be truly defeated through conventional means. As long as mortals feel rage, they feed Khorne. As long as they experience despair, they empower Nurgle. As long as they harbor ambition, they strengthen Tzeentch. And as long as they seek pleasure or perfection, they nourish Slaanesh. The only way to truly destroy the Chaos Gods would be to end all sentient life in the galaxy, and even then, the psychic echoes might be enough to sustain them. Yet this does not mean the fight is hopeless. Every world defended, every corruption resisted, every soul saved from damnation is a victory, however temporary. The Imperium endures not because it can defeat chaos, but because it refuses to surrender. Faith, discipline, and sacrifice provide bulwarks against corruption. The Emperor, sitting upon the Golden Throne for 10 millennia, holds back the tide of chaos through sheer force of will, and across the galaxy, billions fight and die to keep the darkness at bay. The tragedy of chaos is that it corrupts the very things that make life worth living. It takes courage and transforms it into mindless rage. It takes the acceptance of mortality and twists it into nihilistic despair. It takes the pursuit of knowledge and perverts it into dangerous obsession. It takes joy and pleasure and corrupts them into hedonistic excess. The Chaos Gods are not simply evil. They are the corruption of good things. the shadow that follows every virtue. As we conclude this examination of the ruinous powers, remember that to know the enemy is necessary, but to dwell too long on their nature is dangerous. The Chaos Gods are always watching, always listening, always seeking that moment of weakness when they can sink their hooks into another soul. Knowledge is power, but it is also risk. Use what you have learned here wisely, and never forget that the price of corruption is eternal damnation. The galaxy burns. The great game continues. And in the darkness between the stars, the Chaos Gods wait, patient and eternal, knowing that time is on their side. But until that final moment when either the Imperium falls or Chaos is somehow defeated, the war continues. There is only war, and in war, there is no peace among the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the Chaos Gods of Warhammer 40K. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more lore content. The Emperor protects, but only if we remain vigilant against the corrupting influence of chaos. Until next time, stay strong in your faith, trust in your armor, and never forget, the greatest weapon against chaos is knowledge of what we face.